When this pandemic first started, it didn't take long for us to realize how lucky we are. Spence and I have a roomy house with space to garden and spend time outside. We're not financially threatened. We are in relatively good health, and our family, though spread out, is safe and well. And most important of all, we like each other. We've been married for almost 50 years, and we thought we knew each other pretty well, but I found out there was more to learn about each of us. For me, this has been a time about more patience and greater appreciation. When we retired 6 years ago, I made the conscious decision to use lists to keep myself motivated. I decided then that if I could check 3 things off my list each day, it was a good day. COVID eliminated so many responsibilities, possibilities, and choices that I reduced that number to 2. I missed my pre-pandemic routine, but I was still able to check things off my list. We just had fewer choices, and things happened more slowly. I thought I was learning patience. As we settled into our new routine, gardening, cleaning closets, Zoom calls, and exercise became favorite projects. I was determined to get back into my walking routine. I successfully walked with Spence and friends for several weeks. Then in April, an old foot injury flared up, and by May, I couldn't get around without an orthotic boot. The prognosis was not good. Either a lifetime in a boot or brace, or surgery. I opted for surgery, but of course, it couldn't be scheduled until August. More patience. Now, this is where the fun started. Things had slowed down for all of us by this point, but the surgery put me into slow motion. I kept telling myself that having it done during the time of COVID was a good thing. After all, I couldn't go anywhere anyway, right? I had a tendon transplant and a large pin inserted to stabilize my ankle and support my arch. It was not life-threatening. It was not cancer or heart surgery like so many of our dear friends have had. It was not even terribly painful, but it was very inconvenient. The first 6 weeks were no weight bearing. Initially, I was in bed or stuck on the couch, dependent on Spence for everything. Having the surgery made my COVID world even smaller. Now nothing got checked off my list. I was forced to be patient with myself, to give myself permission to do nothing, and to let myself heal, and to let someone else take care of me. It was enforced patience, and it was a gift. This COVID and surgery time has also given me a gift of appreciation, first and foremost, for my husband. He gave me so many reasons to fall in love with him all over again. He even cooked, which is, believe me, a big deal. This man is known for hot dog pizza, hockey puck-like chocolate chip cookies, and flipping pancakes. And that's about it. We discovered that he does not like to follow instructions, whether they be written or verbal. Nonetheless, we did not lose weight, and we are still talking to each other. I have appreciation for so many other things too. First, it was for being able to see the garden wake up in the springtime. Now it's for the second bloom of fall. First, it was for photos, texts, and FaceTime with the kids. Now it is a new ritual of sending riddles and notes to each grandchild each week, which has morphed into a conversation with each of them. First, it was the chance to see friends on neighborhood walks and Zoom happy hour. And now it is visits and cards and flowers and bread from those same friends. First, it was for having a cool pool to jump into on a hot day. Now it's for the warm water on my neck each morning when Spence washes my hair in the kitchen sink because I still can't take a shower. First, it was for the additional time to organize and administer my dad's estate. And now it's for more time to lose myself in the rereading of a favorite historical novel series. I know I will appreciate being able to walk again, but I also appreciate the fact that I had this experience of not walking, of having limited choices, because I think it helps me understand other people and their circumstances. Perhaps it will help me prepare for the future. And I know it helps me to value and nurture the resurgence of energy and creativity that seemed to go dormant when my world became so narrow. I also appreciate Community UCC. The fact that we get to see each other each week, and that so many of you work to keep us connected. At each Zoom service, I'm reminded that we have a big, big table to share. An amazing, extravagant banquet. And here's what I believe. That banquet is a potluck, even if right now it's a virtual potluck. To me, that means I'll bring to the table what I can. I'll bring my time, my talent, my treasure. But I also know that there are times when I have nothing to bring, and that I will still be nourished and fed, because all are welcome here. This is my brief and very personal take on learning patience and appreciation in the time of COVID. Let me close with these words of St. Therese that were shared at the Women's Book Study a couple of weeks ago. They spoke to me of patience and appreciation. May today there be peace within. May you trust that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith in yourself and in others. May you use the gifts that you have received and pass them on. Pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content with yourself just the way you are. Let this knowledge settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, dance, praise, and love. It is there for each and every one of us. Amen.
It says, when sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions. Indeed, our trifecta of crises today is such a sorrow. The pandemic, the economy, and especially, in my opinion, the political chaos. It is an ideal time with all the quarantine time on our hands, however, to take stock of our faith. Who are we? What do we really believe? My thoughts go back 8 to 10 years ago, a morning over at the Contiki at Pismo Beach. Lana and I spend about a week there every April until this April. And typically when we get up, I go walk across the parking lot and go in the room where they have the breakfast and so forth and start my coffee. And she joins me 20, 30 minutes later. Well, back a decade or so ago, I had Marcus Borg's book, Jesus, with me. And I took it in and I found a place to sit down. And I stood there a moment in hesitation and I put the face cover down. I did not want people to know that I was sitting there reading a book about Jesus. Now that may sound really strange, and in fact it is, but here's the reason. There are so many evangelical fundamentalist Christians out there, and by the way, many of them are dear, dear friends of mine, but a lot of them wear their religion on their foreheads, in my opinion, and they have views that are totally incompatible with what I believe. And I put the book face down because I didn't want anybody walking around to think that's who I was, that I was out to preach to somebody or to convert somebody. A quick list of 3 or 4 items of real strong disagreements I have with evangelicals. Number one, almost everyone I know is for capital punishment. I don't quite get that. Jesus himself, we all know, was a victim of an execution. They seem to think the sixth commandment, and they're entitled to their opinion, thou shalt not kill, really means thou shalt not murder. Normally, when it comes to the Bible, I'm not a literalist, but I take that one literally. Thou shalt not kill. Secondly, I've noticed over the years, every war that comes along that we could possibly get into, they always seem to want to get into it. Whether it be Iraq or Vietnam, or even remember under President Reagan, the Grenada invasion. There never seems to be a war they don't want to get into. I don't get that. In my old age, and I'm going to be 80 next September, I'm more and more of a pacifist. There are only two wars when I look back in history since the Civil War that I think we should have gotten into. Obviously, World War II and the Korean War. And by the way, Jesus, I thought, was called the Prince of Peace, not the Prince of War. He even said, blessed are the peacemakers. They shall be recognized as children of God. Thirdly, these folks with whom I have these disagreements, they seem to favor the rich over the poor. Again, quoting Jesus, blessed are those who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. And then finally, I've yet to get into a serious discussion with one of these friends of mine where they want to accept any refugees. Vice President Pence, when he was governor of Indiana, signed a law that not one single refugee would be allowed to get into Indiana. I wonder if he's ever read the 25th chapter of Matthew. There's this long paragraph right at the very end. And one of them I would like to quote here is, I was a stranger and you made me feel welcome. So, hold on just a moment here. So, I decided I had to come up with, so who am I? And will I ever again put a book like that face cover down? The answer is no. And to me, it's a very simple matter. For me, being a Christian is to practice the principles of Christ to the very best of my ability. Being a Christian is to practice the principles of Christ to the very best of my ability. That's rather inclusionary. It would include Abraham Lincoln, who, although attended church and certainly knew the Bible, if you've read his second inaugural, it's full of Bible references, especially Old Testament, but he never joined a church. He couldn't make sense of Jesus dying for our sins. He just couldn't make sense out of it. But he lived like a Christian, as did a man named Gandhi, who was a Hindu. Certainly he led a life of the principles of Christ. In conclusion, I just want to say, I don't have all the answers for sure. My goal is I want to be asking the right questions. And I'd like to close with a quote from the historian philosopher Will Durant, who says, tolerance grows only when faith loses certainty. Certainty is murderous. And that's been kind of my point here. I'm not certain of very much, but I am certain in my mind that being a Christian is to try to follow the principles of Christ to the best of one's ability. I would like to thank you folks for the opportunity to speak for a few minutes this morning. And I hope everybody has a nice day.
Hi, everybody. My name is Felicia. And I really can't believe that we've been dealing with this pandemic for 6 whole months. It's crazy to me to think that it's been that long. We've been inside, we've been without our loved ones, and we've been unable to meet in person as a church. It's just such a different world we live in right now, and there's so much going on. You have everything going on, from the wildfires to the racial injustice and racism that's been running rampant lately, and everything going on with politics. Politics is a sore subject for a lot of people, and it's hard. There's a lot going on right now. So one thing that really inspires me and that I draw a lot of source of hope from is something that was posted to our Facebook community UCC group when the pandemic started. And, we started this group in order to help us connect as a church family early when we realized it was going to be a while before we could meet again. And that was something that was posted by Megan Owens. And she may not even remember that she posted it, but it stuck with me. It really did. And it was a quote from Mr. Rogers. And it said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things on the news, my mom would say to always look for the helpers because there will always be people helping." And that really has been the perspective that I have taken throughout this whole pandemic to help me deal with everything that's been going on. There's people that have helped so much, and sometimes it takes something like a pandemic or something hard, a hard life event, or something just very negative that's going on in our world, like everything that happened with the George Floyd murder, that it takes those things to get the best of some people to shine. And that's the one thing that I've seen throughout this whole pandemic is the humanity is shining, that there's so much compassion out there in the world. You see people that are helping each other that have never met. When the pandemic started, there were people that were going on apps and going on Facebook and posting on the Nextdoor app that connects neighbors saying, "Hey, if you don't know me, that's okay. I have a car. I'll go get your prescriptions. I will take you to the grocery store. I will bring you food if you can't go." And these are people that would have never met otherwise. They would have never met. They could have been your neighbors from 4 or 5 houses down and you've never even spoken to or waved hi to once. But guess what? Now they're your lifeline. They're the people that are showing up every day to help you get through such a tough time. And to me, that's just so inspiring and so wonderful to see. And there's just so much of that. My family, we went through a rough patch this summer. We went through a very rough patch when my husband had to go away to rehab for a few months. And it was hard. He was the, primary source of income, and I wasn't working because of the virus. And we needed support. We needed support in so many different ways. And we got that support. We got that support from our friends, from our family, from all you wonderful people at church in ways that you might not even know that you helped. You did. You helped us so much. And through that, I was able to just really see God shine his love on me and on everyone else in my family, that we were being lifted up in so many different ways, in ways that we knew we needed and in ways that we didn't. And it's the helpers. It's people like you. It's people like your neighbors, people like your friends that you may not even realize are doing so much, and they are. Even if they're doing nothing, they're praying. They're having discussions with people that they care about important topics. Stuff like that is invaluable during this time, and it's been what's been giving me the most joy and the most hope during a time that sometimes can feel very dark. And I'm so very thankful for that. So the one thing that I've really leaned on is looking for those helpers. And I will continue to look for those helpers, because even on the darkest days, there's usually someone there offering you a hand to help you through. And when the sun's shining bright and you feel great, well, guess what? Go out and be that help to someone else. And that's just one of those things that have really gotten me through. So Megan, I know you might not even be hearing this, but if you did, that really inspired me and helped me a lot. So thank you.
When I consider what is giving me hope during the pandemic, I think about several things. My grandson's fascination with the attic at his house, the weeds in my backyard, and a prayer that acknowledges rage about our current situation, but embraces other realities that we shouldn't forget. I'll try to explain all these things in a moment. But first, let me say, running through all this is God's presence. Sometimes I have recognized it, sometimes I haven't, and sometimes God's Spirit has surprised me when I least expected it. Now about our 4-year-old grandson, Josh. His 7-year-old sister Alex was reading a book about a house with an attic. For some reason, the idea of a secret space at the top of his house fascinated Josh, and he talked and talked and talked about that one evening during a FaceTime call with Sally and me. His story was about a bird flying into the attic to see what's up there, and the need for us to learn the bird language so we could communicate with the bird. I find hope in the God-given imagination of a little boy who is discovering new things in his world and isn't frozen in time, as so much of the world seems to be during the pandemic. Josh blessed me with his creativity, and others have done so also during the pandemic. Okay, moving to the weeds. Setting aside time to pull them easily falls into the category, I'll think about that tomorrow. But one morning recently, after several weeks of hot, smoky days choked with bad air, I found myself sitting among the plants and weeds. The sky was as blue as it gets in Fresno, and the air felt fresh. I wasn't checking my iPad for the latest headline from CNN. A welcome quiet surrounded me. I watched a bee among the flowers, and a ladybug decided to take a break on my shirt. Some people would call this green therapy, a peace offered by a connection to the world God has made. Some people find it in the mountains, others at the beach. I'm partial to the ocean, but on that morning, I found it among the weeds, and it gave me hope. Finally, I'd like to talk about a prayer that dropped into my inbox last Sunday morning. Roger and Vicki Wall sent it to the folks who've been participating in the Sunday morning book discussion. The prayer came from Nadia Boltz-Weber, a pastor and author who led Journey into Advent several years ago at CUCC. I'd like to read the prayer. It's long, but it speaks to the time we're all living through. She begins, quote, "Dear God, I'm very clear about what scares me right now, and I have absolutely no problem talking about what angers me now. But I know you would have more for me in life than fear and rage, although there is a purpose for both. And let's be honest, it's so much easier for me to long for what I want or resent what I have lost than it is for me to be thankful for what I have. Help me to know that gratitude isn't a thank you note to grandma obligation, but the gift that doubles a gift." So here is what Nadia Boltz-Weber was thankful for that morning. Quote, "That you gave us a capacity to experience pleasure. So for dark chocolate and strong coffee, I give you thanks. For the smell of barbecue and the feel of puppies, I give you thanks. For the way that hot springs and cold lemonade and warm baked goods make us feel, I give you thanks. That you are the connective tissue between those who bear your image, I give you thanks. Zoom is a mixed blessing, Lord, but I am grateful for all it allows. Thank you for one more day of able-bodiedness. Thank you for every single moment of laughter. Thank you that streaming TV shows is a thing. That there are people in my life who love me completely, even though they actually know me, is mind-blowing and life-changing. Thank you. That you are God and I am not. I give you thanks, even though sometimes I don't act like it. Thank you for my life. If possible, help me to be more grateful for it. Amen."